Hypeworks episode number 8. I'm Alex.
I'm Jay.
So basically, before we went live, we were talking about agency dynamics and like the constructs of a modern agency and agency work. So yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Right. This is where the monologue begins. No, it's more like a situation of, I am tired of working for companies or clients. You heard it here first, by the way. If you're a client and you're signed to us, in 6 months, if we don't work with you anymore, it's our choice, not yours. Because you're hiring us because we have an expertise that you don't. So please listen to us when we give you advice. Stop wasting money on what KOLs you think are cool and hire some people that actually have more of a intuitive knowledge of situations outside of your domestic country. For those people that don't know, Alex and I run an agency together that helps Chinese companies bridge a culture gap to sell to the European Union and North America. Okay, so we're going through this filtration process whereby we need to pick clients that we really believe in their product, but also whereby these clients really believe in us, because we need to get to the point where it's not that we won't listen. We will listen to everything that you have to tell us about your brand. But in some way, you're hiring us because of our expertise, and you need to trust us when we make decisions about your brand.
Yeah, well said. I'm trying to think of a counter argument here just to kind of like frame the conversation. But the only thing I can think of is right now, there's a huge pressure right now in companies to cut costs. Markets aren't good. So then if they feel pressure about costs, right, budgets, all this stuff, I feel like they're going to defer more to what they know rather than trust other people or take risks.
Maybe.
They're going to do what they did in the past, right?
That's a great argument.
I did billboards, I did events, I did, advertising, whatever. So how would you respond?
I did
to
marketing in 2016 when the economies were still growing, and this tactic worked.
Correct.
Wake up! It's not 2016 anymore. It's 2022. We've gone through 3 years of COVID, and the world is in recession. It's a completely different playing field, and industries or segments of digital products such as KOLs and advertising have changed massively in the last 6 years. It's a saturated market. It's completely saturated. If you want to pitch a product to the media, you're pitching against hundreds of products that are just like yours. Before, it may have been tens. Now it's hundreds. So you're not going to be able to get free press releases for product reviews unless your product is either standout or your strategy in terms of your PR is standout. There's got to be something completely unique and different that differentiates your product or brand service from all of the others. Okay, that's where we're at. Same with KOL marketing. KOL marketing is not effective to drive bottom line direct sales unless you have some serious brand power. If you don't have serious brand power, you need to build an integrated system between your content strategy, advertising, your PR, and your KOL strategy. Link it together. That's the only way you're going to generate enough brand power to become top of mind to drive that direct sale.
Fair.
That's how I feel these days.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of people feeling like that. If you're working for a brand, like, how do you choose an agency today? Because, to frame the whole thing, a lot of the big companies are laying off right now. Like your Facebooks, your, whoever, they're all laying off, right? So then you've got all this talent that are thinking, kind of like us, I don't want to work in a big company anymore. I'm going to set up an agency. So there's a glut of agencies right now. There's a lot of people doing this. So we talked about the brand side. Like how can they work with the right people to get the right strategy?
Yeah. Value alignment. How do you pick the right influencer, KOL? How do you pick one? in my opinion, you don't just pick people that have a huge following. You pick people that share values with your brand, because that's how you extend those values of your brand to new market segments. Same with picking an agency. Pick an agency that you vibe with. They've got to be on the same wavelength as you, because they're an extension of your business.
Yeah. Why do you think people get it wrong? Because we've seen before in the past, like, companies pick the wrong agency, and then there's a big fallout, and then no one gets paid, and then there's disagreements, and like, what do you think that mistakes they make when they pick the wrong one?
Tons of answers to this question. One of our frequently asked questions as an agency at the Hypeworks, thehypeworks.com, we have this constant it comes mostly in our KOL marketing. This is where we get this question the most. Why do you charge a fixed fee? That's not a plug, by the way. You can go out and buy our package. We won't tell you the fixed fee. Subscribe below, comment, leave your email, reach out to us. You can reach out to me at jake@thehypeworks.com if you're interested. But we charge a fixed fee. Why? Why do we charge a fixed fee? Well, with our client base, there's a lack of trust. So if we charge people by the amount of influencers, we write all the content strategy, we write all the contracts, we'll do all the emailing, the reach out, everything. We'll build the relationship for you. But what we won't do is scam you on saying they cost $25,000 when they actually only cost $15,000 and take $10,000 to ourselves. So that's one thing that goes wrong. People pick agencies that want short-term gain over long-term relationship. Pick an agency that's going to give you the best price so that they can spend that budget in the most optimum way so that you and the agency scale together. Pick on vibe. Not just think, oh, this is a quick solution. I'll pick this one because they promised me the biggest numbers. Yeah, but maybe they can't achieve those numbers. Pick the people that you believe. Maybe the people that you believe say, look, guys, we won't make a return on investment for 3 months. That might be a hard pill for a business to swallow. But at least you'd be guaranteed to have a return on investment rather than sink money into an agency that loses every month because they're trying to achieve goals that are absolutely unattainable.
It's funny you mentioned vibe. Like, I think vibe is one of these things that's really underappreciated. Like, a lot of people we talk to, especially in tech, like, who's the company they always talk about this year? It's nothing, right? Nothing is the one they all talk about. And I feel like they nailed the vibe. Like, there's certain companies that nail vibe. And I think vibe is one of these things. It's hard to, like, companies talk about ROI. They talk about, like, metrics and stuff like that. But vibe, you can't really put a metric on it. You can't put an ROI on vibe. Like, the vibe you give off is really important. How do you think like we should define vibe in the easiest way?
The vibe is defined. You know, our agency vibe is probably an average of my vibe and your vibe.
Yeah,
in a way. So, you know, that's how it is. By the way, with respect to nothing. Carl, as a director, is very good at building a team of people around him that can achieve his vision. Maybe these people around Carl actually have a sense of his vision and he trusts them to build it for him. You know, the designers, the agencies that they employ, the people. He's built a culture around that company, a culture that, actually I've heard there are some issues with their internal working process. To be honest, I've heard a lot. I mean, you can go on their that website review. What's it called? It's not got great reviews on it. Sorry, Carl. But again, I know those situations internally, and in a way, that's where you got to steer clear of the powers that be that ruined the brand that you used to work for. They changed it into something that, it worked, but now they've changed it. Nothing's going to eat that market share back up because what the values that are implicit in nothing are the values that people that used to like OnePlus are looking for, they're seeking. So they're just going to move. And if you let those forces back in, then the brand will dilute itself down exactly like OnePlus in the same way. So,
do you think like Vibe and stuff, like, I'm trying to put this in the best way, like what the consumer sees, whether it's B2C or B2B, is the end product, right? But do you think, like, as an agency working with a company, do you think like you need to internalize everything, like all the processes, all of the meetings, all this stuff? Do you think it all needs to be connected tissue, like, in order to get the best result? Or do you think you can compartmentalize, okay, this is the way we do it behind the scenes, this is the way we deliver? Like, should it all be like, because, you know, like people say Apple, like the inside of the phone looks as nice as the outside, and the stores look as nice as the phone, and the headquarters looks as nice as the, you know, whatever. Like it's all one beautiful aesthetic. Like that's the way we should look at agencies and brands.
Yeah, because again, Apple have built a culture, not just a company. They've built a culture, same as nothing has done. And these companies need to be protective of their culture. Yeah. Okay, that's how they scale. So, yeah. Simple answer.
Do we? What do you think our culture is? Like, what do you aspire to be in terms of culture?
Again, if you're one of our clients and you're listening to this, you know, we're doing pretty well now. So no punches pulled over here. But if you really want us to change things, we're going to have a look at your plans in terms of investment, because if we actually want to scale things, we're going to have to build a process, like you said, an internal vibe process. Okay. One of the issues that I have with working with a lot of Chinese companies is there's a lot of PPT building. I have to try and prove the concept over and over and over and over and over again. And it needs to be signed off and managed over and over and over and over again. So I will make a content strategy for a month and it goes to the marketing manager, the marketing director, the CEO, and it comes back. And we do that process over and over and over again until the CEO is happy. Well, I don't have time. He doesn't have time to sit in my meetings. I don't have time to listen to him, because every single day that we lose is a huge cost to your business. You're paying us effectively, let's just say, hypothetically, we won't go into too much of the payment terms, but you're paying us by the day. Every day that you waste is a cost to your business. And that's what we need to get through to these people. So process in terms of how do we build a streamlined process that supports the culture is very important. We were talking about, what is it, dbrand we were talking about the other day?
Yeah, dbrand, yeah.
Yeah, again, I'm sure that dbrand has a lot of people on the operational side of the business, but they probably have 4 or 5 people in terms of like their marketing head, their lead creative, et cetera, that sit together in a room and go, right, what happened in the news? Oh, well, Elon Musk is doing this thing with like the blue tick on Twitter. Right, let's do a phone case with a blue tick.
Yeah, they're so fast.
Don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there, but we need to get on this wave right now. They can't do that if they don't have a good process and structure internally to be able to come up with an idea very quickly between a few people and execute it. It's about speed to execution. And I think a lot of these companies, and I've said this many times before, are getting speed with execution confused with running out of time, because they don't have a process, a system that supports the speed to execution. And actual fact, they're so slow that they run out of their time, and they think that they're working fast when actually they're just running out of time and not moving anywhere. They maybe feel the same, but they're very different.
What's the that's a good point. What's the ratio between like process and planning to, like, you know, responding to trends? Like, you know, what's improv? Like, what do you think is the right balance?
Well, as you know from our own internal social media asset creation, we take an approach where we have that proactive and reactive content that we put together. Proactive is generally the baseline. It's underpinning everything. It's what you see on a daily basis. It's planned content. Once we've got that planned content, we can lock it in, we can schedule it, that's our baseline content. That gives a freedom of time to be able to plan and create content on top of that. However, again, if you don't sign off our proactive content quick enough, and we have to constantly go away and redo proactive content because you want a slight modification to where the full stop is in some of the copy for Instagram, then we've wasted time that we could be researching and putting into your reactive content that has probably a higher chance of virality because it's in line with what is the zeitgeist, what is the popular trend of the time, what's in everybody's head. Well, it's blue tick on Twitter, so we're going to create some content about that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Like, think about these brands like Nike, and they're always on top of the news and the trends, right? Colin Kaepernick, remember, taking the knee. Everything they do is like based on trends. I think if you're B2B, I think you don't have to really worry too much about trends. But if you're B2C, if you're not on it, then, I mean, a lot of the people we look at, they're talking about trends that happened like 6 months ago, right? A year ago. Right. They're not fast enough. They don't just get on the trend. I think they're just maybe they're risk averse. Maybe they're worried that, like if I talk about this or if I do some marketing on this, then I'll get in trouble. I think there's a bit of that.
There's another thing as well. It's like, if these people are not living, like you've made a reference to our clients there. And again, if you hire us, it's because we're in touch with the popular culture, or at least more in touch with it than you are. Mm. So let us move quickly with things. I don't know.
Final thoughts on like agencies. Like, what would be your like advice, or like what do you think agencies should be doing like right now and going forward, focusing?
Well, again, I think it varies different. We say agencies, but I think it's a different situation for different types of agencies and different types of industries and different geographic locations. I can only really specifically talk about ours because, well, that's what I understand the best. It's not that this is not me on my soapbox moaning about the issues that we have. It's, again, I'm providing solutions here. I'm not complaining going, they're too effing slow and all this kind of stuff, though that wouldn't be inaccurate. I'm saying, right, guys, we need to invest money into a process that you won't tangibly see the impact, but you will see it as it compounds over time as we get quicker and develop this process. But it's not a case of, I've paid money to the agency, now I can take my hands off the wheel, foot off the gas, and, the car will drive itself. No, it does require some input from you. It requires work on your side as well. And it's not a case of we have to fit your business culture, because if that was the case, then there would be no point in hiring us. You actually want help. So we need to come together with a mutual vibe and work to build something that is beneficial for both parties. Okay. Yeah. And that should be an extrinsic level, such as a monetary gain, but also an intrinsic passion for the category and the product.
I think, actually, this is a good segue for our next topic. I've got here a can of Red Bull, right? And the Red Bull guy died, was it last week or the week before, whatever. This guy, so I just want to paint the scene here. This guy, he's not passionate about sports drinks, right? Like, he went to Thailand. The story is he went to Thailand, actually where you are. He met some guy selling this Red Bull drink, opened a can, drank it. Oh, this is actually quite good. Helps with the jet lag. If he'd gone back to Europe and started selling this as it was, like, no one would have heard of Red Bull, right? But it's the fact that he added his passion for motorsports and fast, what's it called? Extreme sports, and like the lifestyle that people know Red Bull as it is today, which is like this really cool lifestyle, brand that also makes an energy drink. How do you split like passion and making a financial success, of your product or your company?
Yeah.
Or
Here's
should
another
you?
thing.
Should you?
Again, this is like, I think, embedded into the marketing strategy. Like, you can't go mass market with a niche product. Red Bull didn't go mass market. They had a particular group in mind for their target audience when they first started, which was, students in a way. They grew very big through student parties.
Yeah.
So why? Because they lived.
Did you have on campus the car? Did you have the VW Beetle on campus?
Someone did.
Yeah.
Someone definitely did.
Had that. I didn't have that. I saw it.
Yeah, exactly. So they had that reputation for being underground. Mm-hmm. That's how they grew. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with that answer. I feel like
it's passion, right? Like, it's applying your passion and a group of people's passion to selling a commodity, because most products are commodities, right? And a lot of the people we talk to, they sell a commodity product, and Nike sell commodity products, shoes, right? Everything's a commodity pretty much these days, but these brands that really make it are the ones that imbue the passion, right? And you can feel it's real, it's authentic,
right? It's
embedded. What do you think? Like, how do you go about that?
Well, one, authenticity. I think you've touched on it there, that you've got to actually be what you're saying. These days, everybody's always talking about, influencers. And look, I think Andrew Tate is a knobhead. It's fine. I really do. I think he's a bit of a knobhead. I'm not saying that I disagree with everything that he says. He says a lot of things that make a lot of sense to me. But do I like him as a person? Nah. But is he authentic?
Fair. Right. No, fair. And in the case of Red Bull, to be fair to them, like, they started with a lot of the niche sports, like like niche extreme, and then of course now everyone knows them for F1, right? They have their own car, they have their own, what's the guy? Verstappen, like, they have the winning driver. Do you think, like, for brands to become like Red Bull, it's step by step? It's a step-by-step process. Like, how would they? Do you think, like, brands probably, they kind of rush in and they think, oh, we'll just slap our logo on it, and like, what's the lessons that we can learn from Red Bull, like, for companies?
Yeah, I think you've said it already there. To be honest, have passion. Have passion. If you have passion for something, the energy it flows. You don't get tired in the mind. You get tired in the body, and the mind continues to work. This is what we need. This is what we need with our clients. And sometimes as well, I think here's a new, a metric for us to measure. Do these marketing managers at this company that are a client of ours, do they have as much passion for the brand as they ought to have to make this a success? Are they, I'm going to say it, people at Oppo that are using an iPhone, go hand in tomorrow. Seriously. If you're using an iPhone as your phone for 90% of the day and you've got an Oppo in the top drawer of your desk, resign. You're a waste of space and money.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Oppo does have some technological components that is world leading in. Battery technology. No denying, look, maybe they haven't figured it out in terms of the optimization of the battery like people like Apple have. But in terms of their actual ability to charge a phone, and the batteries are quite long lasting, and especially in the top series of phones, they don't degrade too quickly over time. Oppo is a world leader in battery technology, no doubt about it.
Do you think I'm trying to say this. Do you think, as a brand, so Red Bull's story is very famous, but okay, if you ask the man on the street, he's not going to know that the Red Bull guy went to Thailand and he found it in Thailand, right? That's the whole genesis. People will know, oh, it's the F1, it's the guy jumping from space, it's the guy jumping off a cliff jumping, all that stuff.
Right.
Do you think brand stories? Do you think they're how important is the brand story? Do you think it's something that companies like, is it a stroke of luck, or is it something you need to build over a long period of time, or like do you need to like really craft it? Like, what do you think of stories like behind brands?
Yeah, again, these are topics that recently I'm spending a lot of time thinking about. You know, we're working with a few brands. I'm always thinking about brand development, our own brands, my personal brand. You know, I'm always thinking about like literally like everything in a way that is brand, but we've said it before. It comes down to being authentic. People resonate with stories that are real. I think, you know, again, people will be willing to overlook some people's shortcomings or brands' shortcomings if they're trying. You know, they'll forgive them, and then the brand will grow. If the brand fixes its shortcomings and it improves and it gets better, people will have respect over time. You know, it's very few brands are born perfect. Apple is rare, but can you become like Apple? Yeah, I think you can if you stop chasing what other brands are doing and start going, well, how can we be more like ourselves?
Yeah. What advice would you give to like a brand that has like a shit kind of story, or like that's that came out of nothing, or like doesn't have any real excitement, or, you know, has a murky past, shall we say? Like, how would you deal with that?
Give up now and save your money and restart again, because in these marketplaces today where it's incredibly saturated, unless you have complete domination in terms of being able to produce at the lowest cost and sell at the highest volume to get that margin, then you have to compete on embedded, intangible brand values. My personal belief, okay, I'm not saying that there's still not room for people to drop ship out there, but, you know, if you look at the brands that we work with, we keep calling them brands. We don't call them products, because they're trying to embed intangible values into their product. Yeah. And that, like we were talking about service, the product is a service, and the product is a tangible vehicle for an exchange of intangible values.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm trying to think of another. Yeah. So basically, you're saying, that's fair. And what about like, what about if you're like a brand that's already doing well right now? Like, what would you be doing to maintain that? Because like we're talking a lot about challenger brands, and like they've got a lot of room to improve. But say you're like on top right now, say you're Nike or Apple or something, like what should they be doing to like? I feel personally like Apple stuff, the products at Apple are really good now. Like they're the best they've ever been. Like they're much better than the competition. But I feel Apple, the brand, is not as good as it was 10 years ago, if that makes sense. It's not as exciting. I don't get excited about it anymore in terms of like new launches, or it's a bit of a conundrum. Balance sheet says good, brand boring, you know. It's difficult.
In terms of like their aesthetic isn't shocking anymore. Like the aesthetic was shocking to the point of, wow, this is truly completely unique. Maybe because everybody else has copied Apple. Yeah. They haven't innovated with their marketing. As well, I don't want to get political here, but there are these sometimes, like some of the marketing messages that these brands are using are actually almost political ideologies. And I think that's cool if they want to have a stance on that. Don't get me wrong. I think that Apple is a truly cool company. I think they really do stand by what they preach. I think they inherently have a good message, but do these brands become too uniform in terms of their stance? Does it get to the point where it's predictable and boring? And does it get to the point where people are being hired because of their political view rather than their capability. And I don't know if there's a clear-cut answer to that, but I look at a lot of brands these days, and they're churning out almost like this shocking content. Don't get me wrong, it's shocking, but it's shocking.
You're talking about social media or like generally?
Even like that post I sent you the other day, okay? Fair play, I understand it, but you know what I mean? It's like, I know it creates a reaction. I know that in some ways it's morally correct. It's, be yourself kind of stuff. But do people want that like continuously fed to them via social media? I think it depends on your brand. Like if that's going to be your brand disposition from now on, that's cool. But, like you say, people won't leave Apple because the products are unbelievably good, but their marketing hasn't changed in like 4 years.
Yeah. Speaking of companies brands that have fallen from grace, we're talking about crypto fallout. So the FTX thing's gone down. Bit of a shocker, to be honest. No one saw that coming. What's happening in crypto? Like I want to frame it from a marketing perspective. Like we saw, like we can talk about the other stuff, personal crypto and stuff, but like all these crypto companies grew so fast on like Discord and like lots of underground marketing, and then they got really big. They started putting the logos on stadiums. They did all the commercials. Matt Damon. Like what's the state of crypto in terms of marketing? Like what can people take away?
I'll say this, okay? So obviously we've worked in some corporate spaces. The hype around crypto, kicked off last year, like literally 1 year ago.
Was it last year?
The big hype where all the corporations were getting involved. Like,
yes.
Tom
Brady.
We've done something in the metaverse.
Yeah.
What is it? Again,
it's so fast. It's amazing, right? It's only a year ago. It feels like it's been around forever.
Yeah, but people are fed up with it. That's why.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing, like 90% of people that are talking about crypto shit are talking, they're using somebody else's words. It's like they went on a podcast and they heard someone talk about crypto and then they regurgitated that information rather than truly understanding it. Do I personally truly understand crypto? No. I'm probably at like the 89% of the people, but I know people that are in that really knowledgeable zones. I'm not going to pretend that I'm on the bandwagon because, I'm following the bandwagon. Obviously, I'm quite heavily invested in cryptocurrency because I understand the technology and I believe in it long term. But people just want a buzzword to associate with their brand. It's the same with this like green energy stuff.
ESG.
The only reason people care about organic and green stuff is because it sounds good and it appeals to people. Yes, we should protect the planet. Yes, we should try to reduce our environmental impact. But we shouldn't just say it because that's what we think people like. I'm not entirely convinced that we should be at that stage yet. I'm not sure, so I think, again, it comes back to be yourself. If you don't know anything about cryptocurrency or the value, everyone was pumping out an NFT. Like, why? Oh, because it's an NFT. It's worth what? It's worth what people believe it's worth. Same with the sunflowers, like Van Gogh. Same with his stuff.
Okay, I'm going to be the bad cop here again. So basically, when all this kicked off, right, metaverse, crypto, the problem was, like you said, everyone wanted to be, it's like any kind of trend, fad, craze. Everyone wants to be in, right? You don't want to be outside. It's like nightclub. You don't want to be outside. All this money's coming in, like a literal hundreds of millions, billions of dollars just going in. So if you're working in a traditional company or traditional industry and you see all this money going in, I think it's human nature. Like what's the human nature, like the term? It's like FOMO, right? there's this FOMO thing, and like I feel like everyone suffers from FOMO at some point to different levels. So how can you blame people for not, like, so say you're an agency, an ad agency, and you pivot and you become focused on crypto, or say you're working in like a tech company and you join a crypto company, like can you really blame these people for, even if they don't understand it, can you blame them for like getting in there?
No, I'll blame them for not being themselves.
Okay.
If you don't actually really care about, like, again, look at all the people you've worked with in your career. Some people actually, it's cool if you care about mobile phones in terms of the technology and how it's marketed, and like I said, like I think, wow, the batteries, wow, that's really, most people wouldn't go mobile phones, batteries, but I do because I've been in the industry, and I think, okay, well, how does Oppo compete? Oppo doesn't compete by saying it's got the best phones, okay? Everybody in Oppo, take a piece of pen and paper right now. It competes by people understanding where Oppo strengths really lie. And if you don't care about the industry, then how can you, or even the product that you're selling, how can you possibly sell it well?
I do feel, we know this, right? Last year, like a lot of our LinkedIn network just started going in crypto. Like they were jumping from all kinds of different industries, right? And I suppose money talks at the end of the day. I suppose if a company comes along and says, I'm going to pay you 20%, 30% more, a lot of these people probably just said, yeah, fuck it. Like, I'm going to do it,
But they're not going to be successful. That's what I'm saying. I think I've started to go, right, who has been successful? These people. How many of them? Like, you will be able to find me examples of people that made a lot of money and they hated their job, or
come on, there's so many of those, right? There's a lot of those people.
But like, is that what success really looks like? Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you mean monetary terms? Yeah, you mean like
in
you enjoying your life? Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. These people are jumping on with the crypto bandwagon for cash.
So
not for love.
Last year when I left the last job, like I went to the fintech conference in Hong Kong, and I could tell there's a lot of money there, swashing around. It's a really slick event, and there's a lot of big talk. But then, like you say, like I was walking around there and thinking, are any of these people actually invested in this? Like, do any of these people really care? And I walked away from there thinking, no, actually, maybe one or two, mostly the
5,
CEOs. Yeah,
10%. Yeah.
These really geeky founding guys, they love it. They love cryptography. They love the whole, economic side, like, getting out of the matrix in terms of the fiat money system, all that. Like, they really care. But all the rest of people are just hangers on, eh? They're just like, I just need to make money here, and,
Right, yeah. So I'm going to learn as many industry buzzwords as possible, and I'm going to schmooze and get close to the people that understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And really, I'm going to, try. It's like when you're at school, right? You can't, you don't do as well in the subject matter that you don't care about. Like, you could get into like physics and go, well, physics is going to make me a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if you're not interested in physics as a topic, how are you going to be successful at it? You're not going to be able to get into the top 20% of people in the world that are interested in physics. So you've got to balance it and try and do what it is that you love.
Yeah. Another thing about
I know that sounds so cliche.
I know we say it every week, but it's true. Another thing we to talk about crypto is like the use case of crypto is still tiny compared to the chatter around the whole thing, right? Like, you still can't buy a coffee with crypto in your local Starbucks. I know they say you can in certain places, but like it's not mainstream, like the use case, like in terms of like, does this really change my life on a day-to-day basis? Think about apps, right? Think about smartphones itself. They change the way we live and the way we do things, the way we work, the way we play. Crypto hasn't done that. It's a store of value. It hasn't really...
I disagree. I don't think it fully is a store of value. I think there's different types. I'd say that Bitcoin is a store of value, but Ethereum is a technology.
Okay, but Ethereum hasn't doesn't do anything for you on a day-to-day basis, though.
Yeah, but I think that there's like financial systems. For example, the banks aren't going to want people to be able to start using a currency of which is completely outside of their control.
Of course, yeah.
Because they can't make money on it in quite the same way as they can if they have like a regulated fiat currency that people use in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, fair.
So I think that there's a lot of restrictions that are kind of imposed by large banking systems, particularly in like places like the US.
Yeah.
Or
even UK as well.
Or the UK, or there's like, that's the thing with crypto.com. That's why I think it's quite cool, because they're enabling people to be able to actually utilize, by buying up people's Ethereum, they pay them in US dollars, and therefore you can use US dollars to buy things through crypto.com.
I did see an interesting analogy yesterday. They compared this bust in crypto to the .com bust, and they say like there was this wave of excitement about e-commerce, and then everyone got killed, right? And then Amazon survived, and then Shopify came along, and everyone's now got an e-commerce store, sells online. Mm-hmm. That is an interesting analogy, because that would say that crypto could come back, and then actually there could be some use cases in the future, and then it could become like mainstream. I think that's a decent analogy.
Well, I think my analogy is more like, at the end of like a war, there's been a ceasefire and two sides want to come to an agreement. The crypto guys like Ethereum are going to have a ceasefire with the technology companies that are creating their own tokens and the big banking institutions and
regulators as well.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say that Ethereum was the first blockchain to integrate fully as like a bridge for all of the other projects that are based on Ethereum. Then maybe Ethereum would, sell out in that way.
Yeah.
But it would like, I'm thinking of the island here, and Northern Ireland.
All right.
To be honest. Yeah. Like obviously the leaders of the revolution in Ireland didn't want to just give up and let the British Isles, the British government, keep Northern Ireland. Of course not. But they felt like at the time that was the most sustainable option for them to achieve as much as they could have. So there was a trade-off. Now, the people that came to that agreement, what was his name? Michael something, right?
Yeah. Was it? No, not Trimble. Was it Trimble? No, I don't know.
Nah.
What was it called? The Northern Ireland Agreement, was it?
It's like the Black Friday Agreement, was it not?
Black Friday. I should like Amazon, right? Good Friday.
Black Friday.
Good Friday.
Good Friday.
Black Friday.
Good Friday Agreement. Who was?
Tony Blair was involved, right?
No, I'm talking like the first.
Oh, the first time, right?
One. Oh. You have a look. You pull that up. What's his
Sorry,
name?
go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a case of, I think somebody within the, like the crypto space is a bit like an art scene, right? It's like an art scene. It's like, oh, we don't want to sell out and we don't want to be mainstream and commercial and all this kind of stuff. We want to keep the space separate from the other systems that pre-exist, because in a way we're anti those systems, or we don't want to be part of the old way of doing things. We want to be the new way. But I do think there's going to have to come a time where one of these technologies is going to have to bridge that gap. So,
the guy you're looking for is Michael Collins.
Michael Collins.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there's got to be. I think this is like a watershed moment, and they need to come together and make it work now. This is the last time they can have a big thing like this. Yeah. Otherwise, people are just going to say, "No, I'm not trusting you with my money."
20 years, bro. Within the next 20 years.
Yeah, and I think it's like any technology development. Like things move very fast. We've only had crypto. I mean, of course, people will say we've had Bitcoin for 10 years. But in the mainstream conscious, like you say, it's only been like a year, and a lot's happened. So I think it's like
Right.
anything. And we might look
Right,
back on this
exactly.
and say, hey, actually, this is a small bump in the road to something
When
bigger.
did Facebook change its name? That was like a year ago,
Yeah,
right?
after the scandal, the whistleblower scandal, the
Right.
Francis
So
Haugen.
people as well. Another thing, I know I nearly said this earlier, but I'm so tired of people getting metaverse confused with virtual world. You live in the metaverse already. That's my point. Like, it's not a virtual world. It's not like you put on a VR headset and you're in the metaverse.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. The metaverse is the integration of digital systems into everything that you know in the physical and the digital space.
Good point. Good segue. Just want to talk about advertising right now. So, like, I saw a chart and it said like digital advertising's at like an all-time low in terms of the modern era. Companies are this week were pulling out of Twitter because they're scared that their ads are going to be next to some shit post. Like, you know, you see all those accounts like they create like a fake account and then it's like, oh, Nestle. Did you see the Nestle one? It said like we take your water and sell it back to you. You know, that kind of thing. What do you think about advertising, digital advertising, like in this chaotic crypto, metaverse, Twitter meltdown? Like, what should companies be doing with their advertising?
Optimizing it. That's another thing. Optimizing it. A lot of the time, you know, it's like everyone's like, we want to be number one. It's like, okay, well, cool. And they're like, okay, well, tell us how much you cost. It's like, well, you want to be number one. It's going to cost you a lot of money, you know, or it's going to be like, we want to become famous or whatever. Or, again, what's your marketing budget? It's like, there's three things really, isn't there? There's manpower, financial resource, and time. Give me those three things as an equation and I'll optimize a strategy that can perform the best towards an objective within those three parameters. If I don't have those three parameters, how on earth do you expect me to optimize towards whatever objective? Time, money, resource in terms of manpower. Those are the three things that people need to understand. It's simple, it's basic, but it's what people get so wrong. So this, again, coming back to the conversation of running out of time versus moving quickly. Maybe they feel the same, but they're very different.
Yeah, but you can optimize everything in the world and make the best of your time. But if your ad appears against some kind of bad content, is that justification for all these big companies to say, actually, no, we're gonna put our money elsewhere, like in offline or some other, or marketing cost center?
Again, this is where I'd say that you'll figure that out by looking at where you're driving what's the lowest cost per acquisition. Okay, well, that's where our target audience live. I think people going, oh, well, your Twitter is a bad return on investment, is more like a smear campaign against its new owner as opposed to anything that's been measured tangibly. Okay, yeah, so someone created a post and it appeared, well, that's someone's like almost political activism against the brand. It doesn't mean that all advertising on Twitter has this issue. It's one example that's next to a huge corporation that somebody's wanted. Yeah. Well, I know it's not one example, but you see my point. It's not like that happens to everybody on Twitter. And I'm sure that if you're a small brand or you're a brand that isn't necessarily, I don't want to say the word controversial, maybe that's not the right word, but isn't under a lens of scrutiny like some of these large corporations, then you won't have that issue. And large corporations going, oh, Twitter's unfair on me, is like,
yeah,
it's like you're blaming the people, not fixing the problem with the brand or the product or the supply chain in this case.
Yeah. And so, talking about Twitter, one of the complaints Elon had was that they're too brand focused, like brand advertising. They don't do enough like relevancy. So they're not saying they want to be more like Google and less like Instagram. Like that was their That was his kind of perspective, I think, because they're saying they're not driving revenue. Do you think that's fair? Do you think like brands that do Twitter, why do brands do Twitter for advertising, for example?
It's a great question, because as an advertiser, I think about it as the back end. I was having this discussion with somebody yesterday saying that as much as I hate Facebook in terms of the back end of Facebook, the side that you as an advertiser see, it moves, it changes. Sometimes it's not straightforward, but it is probably the most flexible and easy to understand out of the back ends of any of the advertising platforms online. I think it gives you a lot more. Maybe the algorithms are more sophisticated on Google. I'm starting to wonder if that is the case. I think they may be more sophisticated on Google, but I feel like the targeting on Facebook.
Well, that was always Facebook's big claim, right? That's how they got so big, because they're targeting. Like they could say, I can target this 16-year-old kid in Delhi, whatever, in India. So yeah, Facebook's awesome, but like Twitter, do you think like they're just not a good advertising platform then? Like generally speaking.
Yeah, again, if you've used the back end of Twitter, you realize that by comparison, even to like Google and Facebook, like it's years behind.
Kindergarten, right?
You can't structure it. You can create great awareness. I think Twitter is a fantastic awareness tool.
Yeah.
But
good for like current events as well, right? Because it is the live platform. So if you've got something that's happening now, you want to bubble to the top of the conversation.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe they should focus more on live, like some kind of live platform.
I mean, I think what Elon Musk is getting at is it's great for creating exposure, but it's crap for driving people through strong sales funnels.
Funnel.
That's the issue. Like Google, you can do it, but I don't think you can do it to the same precision as Facebook in terms of how you narrow that funnel.
Yeah.
But I do think the algorithms on Google are very strong in terms of being able to find people. They're very good at being able to segment people. It's a black box for you as an advertiser, but it feels to me that it's like once it locks onto a specific persona that seems to be buying your product, it really latches onto that in a way that Facebook still seems a little bit like unsure. You have to do more input into Facebook to drive return than you do on Google. But Twitter doesn't have the same level of sophistication for advertisers.
Yeah, fair. And it'd be interesting to see like what he does to improve that. But that's not going to happen overnight. But what you're saying is basically it doesn't matter if some of these brands pull out of the platform. Like the main thing is fix the product and then they'll come back.
Well, I think that different types of brands will start using Twitter.
Yeah, it could be an opportunity, right? If the big guys pull off, it could be an opportunity. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. That would be sick.
I just pulled up this chart and like the revenue growth. So we talked about Google, Facebook, Twitter. The one we didn't talk about is Snapchat. Snapchat's still declining. Like who advertises on Snapchat these days? Don't know.
Snapchat's always a weird one because people forget that Snapchat was huge in like 2012.
Yeah.
It comes and it goes and it comes and it goes. So I don't know. I think the Snapchat have a similar kind of situation that their advertising model isn't as clear cut or people don't use it, people don't have the habit where they browse it for long enough that they can see the same kind of adverts.
And also like the main activity of Snapchat is messaging, right? It's ephemeral messaging. That's the point of the app. So to actually see the ads, you've got to go into a different screen, right? I don't use Snapchat that much, but the ads are on the Discover tab or whatever. It's different. As far as I'm aware.
There's different types of advertising you can do, like geolocated filters and stuff like this. That's all very well and cool. I actually think that Snapchat is great in terms of offline events. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you're having an offline event and you can manage to get people to use Snapchat and stuff, then you can spread word of mouth pretty quickly.
Yeah, and so those guys are all suffering. TikTok, there's a torrent of money going to TikTok advertisers because it's the hip. It's the new nightclub, right? It's a hip place where people want to hang out.
I'm not sold, you know.
But you're not. I know you're not a huge fan of TikTok.
I'm not sold. I think, you know, when I've used TikTok on like, and I'm talking like millions of dollars worth of campaigning here, I think it needs to fit with a very specific user audience. Like, if you want to sell, like, let's say that fidget spinners weren't a thing and they were coming back, okay, use TikTok. That's like, you know, sell a product that appeals to people that just want to waste their time watching 15 to 30-second videos continuously for 3 hours. Perfect. If you've got a product that appeals to a segment like that, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think, you know, like I say, for me, it's like a virality. You know, you chancing everything on virality. I just feel that it's not like a platform that you can guarantee a sustainable return unless you are like in the box of this is a TikTok brand. You know,
yeah.
It's like, oh, we can do some branded stuff on TikTok, and yeah, it may go viral, and yeah, it will drive. But do we invest continuously month over month to drive a sustainable return on investment? It's that part of TikTok that I'm not sold on. Again, the quality of the traffic that TikTok drives. Yeah. Sometimes it seems a bit sporadic.
It's a black box. Questions about the metrics, but as interesting as you say about the commercial side. So like the main issue of all these guys we talked about is their social media, right? Their social apps. So you go on there basically to interact, have fun, flirt, you know, do whatever you want to do. You're not really in a buying mode. But the one we didn't talk about is on this chart, it's the fastest growing ad platform right now, Amazon. Mm-hmm. Amazon advertising is going off the charts. All these brands are basically looking at Amazon saying, the buyer, the person going onto Amazon is in a buying mood, like mode. You know, they're in the zone. If I put my product on Amazon, it's an easy win. That feels like the story right now with Amazon.
Well, yeah, I have a tendency to agree.
Yeah,
I think Amazon is something that, you know, if you're like a lot of our clients, for example, you know, they have factory production lines. They do well on Amazon. Why? Because it's literally product comparison to product comparison. So if you do have like a product with good technical specification, and it can be lined up against its competitors on Amazon in terms of price point and reviews, and they're in a buying mood, then half the work is done. Yeah. You don't need to convince somebody to buy something. They're already in that consideration stage. Whereas I think that if you approach people on Facebook, Google, you know, you're trying to select the people that are in the market, or you're trying to convert people to be in market for the product that you're buying. Yeah. So it's one extra barrier, but I think Amazon are winning out now, particularly in this day and age. You know, people can. It's a literal marketplace. You know, it's the digital Walmart.
Yeah, no, I think brands are just discovering it, and I think the only danger of Amazon is like, so say you're a brand, right? And you know, Amazon's biggest category is consumer electronics. So say you're making some electronics. You might use Amazon for the FBA to send stuff from the UK or US to your customers. You might use Amazon like for AWS for like hosting something. And now you're giving Amazon money for advertising. Like maybe you're spending too much of your marketing budget on Amazon. That's a worry.
For me, I see it like this. Like Amazon is like a sick sales channel. Like if you want to drive like revenue in terms of like profit, Amazon, yes, good bet. But I don't think Amazon is a place to grow a brand.
Correct.
I think it's much harder to grow a brand on Amazon. You know, people need to, I mean, I say people, but I'm saying some of our clients in reality need to stop looking, right, okay, it's like a factory, right? A factory might be made of 3 different units, okay, 3 different buildings.
Yep.
But maybe only building A and B make money, but without building 3 that runs at a loss, A and B won't make money. And I think that in the modern day with e-commerce, your building 3 is how you brand on your own personal website. It's how you brand on your Instagram. It's that touch point with the consumer that people might follow your brand after they've bought you on Amazon, but they want to stay connected. So I think social media should really be helping retain customers as much as like acquisition of new customers. But it may never, well, I'm not saying for all, it might not in some business circumstances be profitable to run it, but you may make all of your money on Amazon where people initially purchased. I'm not sure. I think the consumer journey is incredibly complex, especially, you know, after COVID.
And also after the Apple iPhone ad thing where they changed the privacy so people can switch off tracking. That affected a lot of these advertising platforms.
Yeah. Affected Facebook massively.
Yeah.
Basically, you can only get in touch with people on iPhone for up to 14 days.
Are you still bullish on digital advertising as a medium?
Yeah, but this is coming full circle here, but in context of all of your consumer journey, all your touch points need to be standardized and your brand needs to be well built and well understood at each of the touch points.
You need to have a good website.
You can do that. I'm talking websites, I'm talking Amazons, I'm talking socials, I'm talking influencers. Everything needs to be pushing the same communication, and that's how you'll be successful as a brand.
Holistic. What's the buzzword? 360-degree marketing, right? You see that in a lot of people.
I think that, yes, it's an accurate description.
It's accurate.
I
saw that on someone's LinkedIn. Someone we know is LinkedIn. I saw that.
Really?
Yeah.
Who?
I'm not going to say.
Male or female?
Female. I'm not a huge fan, but anyway.
OnePlus?
No. Yes, advertising is a big part of the pie, but it needs to be a pie. It's another way of putting it.
Bingo. I love that quote.
Well, damn, we're running out of time. Just last one. I just want to quickly talk about Blighty, the UK. What's your thoughts on Rishi's first few weeks as PM? You're going back to the UK. Probably by the time this comes out, you'll be near or back in the UK.
Touching down.
Yeah, but
I'm back, everyone. I'm back.
Get a red carpet.
Nah, the situation is just I don't care enough to keep up with it. You know, I'm not just looking at the UK. I'm looking at US. I'm looking at the EU. I'm looking at Thailand. I'm looking at China. You know, I'm looking at markets on a whole. So, you know, Matt Hancock being on segment. Matt Hancock being on I'm a Celebrity. Get me out of here. If anybody in the UK cares about that, sort your fucking life out, okay? Because you can moan about it, but get out there in the street. Stop moaning. Get out there in the street. And, you know, if you want to know, like, I look at the UK. So this is where I get my soapbox here. I look at the UK and I see the Prime Minister or, Matt Hancock. Okay, let's just talk about Matt Hancock. I see him on I'm Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and everybody thinks it's a joke. And you wonder why the country is in such turmoil. Look in the mirror.
Yeah.
You're the people that can affect change. You've got to get out there and vote. And this is the other thing with the EU, by the way, because recently I had someone effing and blinding at me saying that I didn't understand the thing about Brexit because Brexit is a net benefit to the UK economy. I never denied that, okay? But I don't think that... I do think here's one thing about the EU. It takes away an individual's share of voice in the sovereign nation so they have less capability to steer policy in a direction that they think might be beneficial to their local communities. And I've seen, when I lived in China, what a great deal of centralization does to the ability for individuals to affect local policy and regulation. And trust me, I've been in lockdown in Shanghai. When that comes down, you can't move. There's no, oh, it's the middle of COVID, but everybody's out on a Black Lives Matter protest. It's no, you'll go into prison and no one will hear from you if you do that. And don't think that the EU or the UK can't end up in a similar situation to places like China. It can.
Do you
whether people let it happen?
Do you think Rishi Sunak's just like another stand-in, like another face? There's going to be no real change.
Yeah, I do.
I think a lot of people feel that. Yeah.
I think it's not like he's another stand-in. I think he's just like, I think he expedites that process. And again, like, I'm not part of his crowd, okay? You know, so I'm not in the gang.
You didn't go to Oxford,
I didn't. So I'm not in the gang with these people. And I understand in their world vision that how that might be great so that they can affect change that will benefit. You know, I'm sure a lot of people all over the world do things with good intentions. I'm sure that there was a lot of people in governments that thought, okay, we'll overstock on certain vaccines so that we make sure that we never are short of it. But were there people involved in that decision making that were motivated by profit more than helping people?
Yeah,
I think
do
so.
You think that? Do you think the bigger issue is? I'm looking at the big issue here. Is the UK is, you know, it's structural decline. Like, we have to accept that we're going to be a smaller country. We're going to be less well off. We're going to be less global, less international. We just have to accept we are going to be a smaller country at the big table of the India, the China, the US, you know, the Brazil in the future, you know, Indonesia, like all these big countries. Do you think it's more a case of,
maybe,
like you say, looking in the mirror, this is reality, you know, our economy is pretty weak, there's too much finance, there's no manufacturing. Do you think no oil and gas is basically dead, we're a net importer? Do you think like people in the UK just need to accept, you know, it is what it is?
I think it's generational. Okay, you look at the UK, crime seems to be going up. Okay, like that's an indication that there's a breakdown of people don't respect the UK.
Yeah, it's lost a lot of respect.
I think a lot of young people in the UK don't respect the country, and I think that some of that is like ingrained in certain media sources and educational sources of saying, okay, the UK is an imperialistic, racist country. Okay, maybe framed by the modern day, if you look back, I think that's a reasonable argument to make. Okay, but what's the solution? Stop looking at the problem. Oh, it's all this and that and doom and gloom and it's all bad. How are we going to get this society that's shared now out of where it is and create a better life for everybody here? Well, moaning about the past, as important as it is to recognize the past, is not the solution that's going to make things better. And I think too many people in the UK are tearing down fundamental elements of the culture that can contribute to making the society better. One of those might be freedom of speech.
Do you think though it's a bit confusing because, you know, like on the one hand, the UK has always been famous for, you know, being very activist, very liberal, you know, free speech, as you say, but then we've got these groups like the Stop Oil group that are kind of disrupting all the traffic. And do you think there's like a balance between, you know, being activist and being like, let's just do the work? Because, you know, that's what Asia's famous for, right? It's just hard working. Head down, you know, let's make stuff. Do you think we've become too, like you say, Love Island? Do you think it's become too Love Island in UK and less work?
I saw somebody post on Instagram yesterday. If you see me glued to anything, they were going on the Just Stop Oil protest, by the way. If you see me glued to anything, let me know how you think my new haircut looks. And I thought, yeah, maybe that's you making a joke, you know. But why the fuck are you out there protesting if actually you care about your hair more than anything? You know, I know that's a joke, but it's like a reflection of your actual value system. That's what I don't get about these people. They go into these things because they've been told that that's the trend, that's the cool thing. If you want to be cool, if you want to be morally right, ethically superior, you need to join in with the Just Stop Oil. But these people are effectively, I think, in some way, used as a tool by the system to create disruption to allow other people to make money. I don't want to get too much into it. My tinfoil hat will come on.
Two final questions to end up UK. First one, if you could pick anyone, any British person in the world right now to run the UK, who would you pick?
Jake, is it?
I thought you could say JK. Nah. I actually thought you were going to say Jamiroquai for a second.
Nah, I'm not sure. I think it's such a huge responsibility. It's hard, okay? It's hard because, you know, I'm not going to say... there are people, I think, out there that it's like there's opinionated people on, you know... Look, I think the left and the right are the same. I started thinking about this yesterday. Both people want what's best for the country, on the left and the right. And both people think that they have the right answer to the question. Yeah. Okay, but let's sit down and talk about it. You know, we could talk about this in the context of, like, again, certain political policies or certain, you know, governments buying certain types of commodities from big business. You know, it's like, in the end of the day, who does it benefit?
I would get the Ineos guy, Jim Ratcliffe. You know, the Ineos guy. I think he's really smart.
I don't know this guy.
He's really smart on like industrial policy. He wants to rebuild the manufacturing base. Like, we need a manufacturing base. We need to make stuff.
We do, but people are going to have to get off their high horse and recognise that the UK is not what the UK used to be 40 years ago.
But we can still do it, like Korea, Japan, like we can make stuff, I think. We need that.
Yeah, but again, I don't think Japan is one of the happiest societies in the world.
Second question, final question. Is it true that rumoured that the first place you're going to go when you go back to UK is Greg's?
That had never crossed my mind, but that is...
and if so, what would you buy? What would you buy in Greg's?
You know, I'd buy just a simple iced bun.
Ice bun, nothing meaty, you know?
Just
no meat.
Just a simple iced bun. Nah, just a
Cornish pasty, you know?
Standard iced bun. I don't know why. Something simplistic about a sweet piece of bread with some icing on top.
If you're flying to London, which I'm assuming you are, like if you went into London, like where would you go?
See Timbo Slice. No, I genuinely, I'd make, if I was in London for a week, I would make a list of all the people that I'd want to see. Roy Astley, Afolabi, Timbo Slice, Craigie, if you're still in London. I think you might be in Northampton. You know, I think, I'd just make a list of people that I'd go and touch base with a list of people that I want to see. Again, I'm going to gate crash. I'm already putting it out there. The Product Marketing Alliance, Rich Brackett, I'll come visit your company. I'm still very grateful about all those opportunities that you gave me. So that's what I would do. I'd make a list of people that I wanted to see.
Fair enough.
But yeah, Greg's is now on the, you know, off the plane into Greg's, ice bun. We'll see what happens.
On that,
I'm flying into Manchester though.
Why Manchester?
Just because it's in the north of the country, really.
Oh man!
So you know, my brother lives just north of there. He lives in Cumbria. So get him to pick me up and drive me across the country.
I did Manchester once, and I kind of regret it. Like I prefer Gatwick. I'm a Gatwick guy.
We're going. The thing is Emirates, bro. It's your favorite, dude. Flying Emirates.
Perfect.
I've never been through Dubai either, so it'll be quite interesting.
Dubai, yeah, it's cool. Cool airport. It's yes. I think by the time this goes out, I've been to Dubai and back. So, but Dubai's that's another podcast. But we should talk about like where to live in 2023, like a list of cities.
By the way, I just saw Ecuador had a digital nomad visa brought out like yesterday or the day before, or they started publishing about it in PR press releases. So I think that there's a lot of countries that are going to like create digital nomad spaces. I think that's going to change the way that the world works and functions effectively. But that's for next week.
On that note, let's sign off.
Bye.
Bye bye.